Hi and welcome. My name is Lawrence Baker and this video is going to be about SEO, search engine optimization for WordPress photography sites. What is the most important thing you should be doing? One, it's to optimize your images to the smallest possible file size in bytes. Absolutely essential, because if your site takes too long to download, Google will not rank you very highly in the SERPs. SERP, search engine result pages. So when you come out of Lightroom at 50% thereabouts, or Photoshop at 50%, you need to further compress your images. And the way you can do that is two ways. You can do it yourself, let's say with the Scoosh app online here, or you can get a plugin. I use a plugin called EWWW Image Optimizer. It has a built-in CDN, Content Delivery Network. All these things are quite complicated, but basically it's got a lot of bells and whistles. The free plugin I recommend is reSmush.it. I think that's the name of it. I have a link above and below. I have covered image optimization before, so there will be links, but basically I want to go over it quite quickly to explain, how to optimize your images, because it's the number one most important thing, because slow loading sites are not liked by Google. So I think another one is called Short Pixel you could use. It's a very good plugin, but I've gone with EWWW Image Optimizer because it has a CDN built in, and I really like using a CDN. But that's outside of this subject. Now, if you didn't know, when you bring an image into WordPress, that image will be called the full size image. And then, depending on the size of the image brought in, WordPress will create three other sizes: thumbnail, medium, and large. So that's 4 images. The large size happens to be 2000 by 2000 pixels, max width and height. I can change that if I wanted to. Now, if you brought an image in that was smaller than the large size, it would not create the large size. It only creates the pixel dimensions that are smaller. On top of this, to make life even more difficult, what happens is under your theme setting, under images, all these other sizes will be created as well. For every one image I bring in, I think for me, it's 11 other images are created. There's a lot going on. You just don't have one image. So be aware of that. Also, these images that are created in smaller pixel dimensions also get JPEG compression done on them using Image Magic compression at 82 quality. That has no correlation to the 82 quality in Photoshop or Lightroom. So all this is taking place in the background, but don't worry about it too much. The one I think you should be caring about is the size of your image on the longest edge. Now, I've gone for 2000, which matches the large size. So my large size and my full size are exactly the same. I used to go for 2600 pixels on the longest edge because I thought that would cope with 5K max, etc. if I had an image that took up the whole screen. I no longer bother with that because that's an extreme, the 5K max scenario. Most of us now, most people looking at sites are looking with laptops and mobiles. So 2000 is fine for me, but make your mind up what you're going to go with. If you made the mistake that I did and went for 2600, which makes for large file sizes, then you're going to have to re-import everything and go through the process again. Outside of using an image optimizing plugin, also there's something I use, and I'll show it to you now when I get to the media, and it's a Retina plugin from a guy called Geordie. It's WP Retina 2. There is a free version. I recommend you get it. If you don't understand the concept of high pixel density screens, don't worry, because the plugin will do the work. Maybe you might have to optimize your images that are already there for Retina and then leave the plugin alone. It will do its job. I've paid for an upgrade, roughly $14 a year. So I've got a few more bells and whistles with the plugin, but it is a freemium plugin. So is the actual EWWW one, but it'll only allow for 100 images. Well, now you know that for every one image, I've got 11 other images that will roughly do about 8 or 9 images for me. So this is what you've got to be aware of all the time. Now, I don't want to dwell too much here because I've dealt with image optimization before, but it's vitally important. So all these things, whether you want to get a plugin or do the optimization yourself, because as I said, you must come out the lowest possible quality setting from Photoshop or Lightroom or Affinity, and then further compress the file either using an app or a standalone app on your computer or a web app, and then bring it into WordPress. Or you just get the plugin to do the work. I've got the plugin to do the work. I pay $9 a month for that. So I think that's quite reasonable because I've got a lot of images. So that's image optimization out of the way. What else is very important? Well, if you actually go and read some of Google's Search Console help pages, what it says about images, it says here, include descriptive titles, captions, file names, and text for images. Although Google can now read what's inside an image and probably guess what the subject is, it needs context. So how do you do that? Well, basically you do that by making sure the file name describes what's going on. So if I go to, I'll just get this page here and go to this plugin, again from this guy Geordie, and go scan and show all issues. What this plugin does for me is, in the title in Lightroom, the IPTC title, when I bring the file in, this will automatically name the file according to that title. It puts dashes between the words, but basically that's what it does. I can change things, etc., but basically that's how it works. I paid for the Pro version, so it gives me more control. So yeah, that's what's going on. So things like, find a picture here, early morning at Shanklin Esplanade, Isle of Wight, .jpeg. That tells Google what's inside that file. They will know it's probably a scene, some landscape scene, but they don't know what it really is. So that's the first step. The second one, let me show it to you in this view, is make sure you've got alternative text actually describing the image. Alternative text is really alt text, ALT text. It's for screen readers, for people with visual impairment, and it will read out that information. Also, Google can read it. Google like the fact you're doing this anyway for people with visual impairment, but this also describes the image as well. The second one is the caption. Now, that doesn't show up in many galleries, but if I was to use that in a post, that picture, that would appear below the picture. So the alt text one is most important. So if I show it to you in another view, go to the normal library, there's the alt text, and it becomes part of the image tag inside of the HTML, and it will have that information there as well. So that can be read by Google. It all helps Google understand, plus the caption thrown in as well. You know, it really helps Google understand what that image is all about. Right, so we dealt with what I call the image size of it, you know, the sizing, the captions, the alt text, all these things, naming the file up properly. The next thing is the on-page stuff, you know, outside of the photograph. So if I go and look at my site again and pick my gallery page, it'll be a good example of the page that I want people to really look at. I've named it Isle of Wight Photos. That's the H1 there. Now, I use a plugin from a company called Yoast, and Yoast is an SEO plugin. It's very good. Even if you just activate it, use the wizard and leave it alone, it will help your site a long, long way towards getting recognized by Google. But I'll show you what you need to do once you get used to the plugin, what you need to do for every page to make sure your page shows up. You know, it's the optimal page for a certain search term, let's say. So Yoast created the title. The title is only ever shown in the tab here or when you come to bookmark the page. So let's get rid of that there. So that's what the title is. It doesn't show up normally inside the text here. It's part of the head of the document, the HTML head of the document. Notice I've got some text here explaining what's going on. And I've got a link, an internal link and an external link. Linking is very important. Try and use internal linking outside of your navigation because it shows that that page is related to what you're doing. And the external link all helps as well because it gives Google an idea what your site's all about as well. They tell you they like to see external and internal links, so try and create them if you can. Also, external links coming into you, backlinks, are very important. If they come from a trusted source, trusted by Google that is, that's very good for you as well. That's more difficult to get. Do not get spammy links, but get good quality links from other sites, and that will really help you along the way. I'm not going to dwell on that too much, that backlinking thing, but backlinking does help. So this text thing is very important. So, you know, you've got context. All of my images here, I'm using a plugin called Essential Grid from Theme Punch here. I'm allowed to use the title, which is the IPTC title, which is, when I brought my images in, it gets read by Essential Grid, so I can use it here and use it to describe the image, as well as the alt text being there as well. So all these things help Google understand what your site is all about, or your page is all about, I should say. So having a few lines of text is absolutely important. Now I'm going to show you Yoast now. I'm not going to take you through the wizard. I'm going to edit the page and show you where Yoast exists. Now, as I said, if I did nothing, Yoast would populate this box here. But basically, I've done it myself. This is called the meta description, and that is the meta key phrase. So all these things will get used. Now that looks like a Google result. That's done deliberately. So that's how my page would show up in the search engine result pages for a basic result. Not necessarily 100% of the time, but basically that's normally how it would show up. And it's quoting that meta description there. So this is vitally important. That's the SEO title. That will get used as well. See, landscape photos of the Isle of Wight by Lawrence Baker. There it is up there. So there's the meta description text as well. So all this is vitally important. So when you get used to Yoast, go in and change your pages and think about what people are searching for, and then make meta description match that. Do not flood it with keywords. That doesn't work. Use natural language. So all this appears in the head of a document. So here am I now. So if I went Command F and went title, there's my title. It's up in the head of the document there, not in the body. If I went description, there's the description there showing up, the meta description. So meta, name, description, content, all that. It gets read by search engine bots, so you need to use it. And it does get used in the search engine result pages. As I said, if you don't understand this, just get Yoast. It will do a very basic one based on, things like the page title, etc., etc. It'll do a meta description like that. It's better than nothing. But once you get used to Yoast, go in and make the changes for every single page where you really need to show up. Make sure that, Google knows what this page is all about. Now, the SEO analysis is warning me things I've got wrong. I've got no alt attributes, which is not quite right, actually, because they're not being read properly. That's another thing to do with the plugin Essential Grid. Text length is saying the text contains 56 words. Obviously, it's the gallery. I'm not going to put hundreds of words there. I want the gallery to show up more, but it's saying to me 900 words. Well, that's not going to happen, but it's just warning me the key phrase in the slug, etc., etc. When you get Yoast, just get it on, go through the wizard, and then worry about going and tidying up stuff afterwards. It definitely works. It also uploads or creates a sitemap for you, telling Google or Bing what your site's all about, what pages are on it as well. If you want to pay for the premium version, go for the premium version. The free one is absolutely fine. You just get more bells and whistles with the premium version. It's the only plugin for SEO you should be using, as far as I'm concerned. Now, the next things like document outline. So I'm going to go back to my site here and go to my blog. Pick a big long post like this one, SEO for photographers. So there'll be a link to this as well. Now, if I go to edit post and go here, I can see the document outline. Document outline is absolutely important. You've got structure, H2s, titles, H3 below it, lists. All these things help structure data for Google so it can present the data in the right way. Now, there's something called structured data where you can mark up things in a certain way and Google can present that information easier. I don't think as photographers we're going to use structured data, but it's worth reading about. Let's say you had an apple pie recipe. It would help to structure that data up, use structured data, and Google might use it to present that information for an apple pie recipe, let's say. So it is important, but not so much for photographers. So I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But things like the document outline are, so having, H2 headers, etc., using lists properly, make sure your spelling and grammar is good. Use the Grammarly Chrome extension. It's one for Safari as well, because that will ensure that your grammar and spelling is correct. It's really good. I recommend it. I've only got the free version, but we all make mistakes with our grammar and our spelling, typos, etc. It's really important. Now, this keyword thing. Now, when you search, let's say I'll go here and go to Google. When you search normally, especially if you're not a typist, and you wanted to see Isle of Wight photos, let's say landscape photos, you'd probably go white landscape photo. Because we can't be bothered to type up the whole phrase, so to speak. So they are classed as keywords. But now we have voice searching as well. People are much more specific. So you're going to have to take that into the mix. Now, all these listings are showing up. Now, I can't find my own one at the moment. It might be on the next page. It might be there at all. There you are. My About Me page is showing there. That's the meta description that's showing up. I might show up again, actually. No, might show up twice. My YouTube video is showing up about the Isle of Wight and photography. So I'm showing up basically, but quite a way down. So the keywords, they're important. So when you basically write your text, try and use the keywords in a natural way. Do not just flood your text with keywords like Isle of Wight all the time. Google will know you're trying to show up unnaturally in the search engine result pages, and they won't like it. Now, if you're scraping other people's content as well, copying it and put it into your page, Google will know you've done that as well. And that's plagiarism, and people don't like it, and Google definitely doesn't like it. So at the very least, it will probably de-index your page, because when a Google search bot goes round, it indexes all the information it finds, and then it uses that index to serve results up to searchers. They call that user intent when people type into that box. So user intent is normally expressed in just keywords. Now we've got voice search. People are much more specific. They might say, show me pictures or landscape pictures of the Isle of Wight. So we've got to be thinking like this all the time. But that doesn't mean we should be flooding our text and copy with those keywords. We should just write naturally. Now, Google have natural language algorithms that recognize how people work. If I say photos, it's the same as photograph or photographs. So they understand synonyms as well. So don't worry that you're not exactly getting things how people search. It will understand what you're doing. So writing naturally is the most important thing for showing up in Google search engine result pages. SERPs, as they call it, SERP. So search engine result pages. If you want to rank higher, you don't need to cheat Google. You just need to write naturally. If you write naturally, you'll be absolutely fine. Grammar, spelling, the right document outline. And of course, if you can get backlinks to your pages, that really does help, especially if it's a trusted backlink. Do not go and be tempted to buy backlinks. They can be bought cheaply. And there's these sites out there that just scrape other people's content and make it look like a blog. And then basically they'll link to you for money, and it's really bad. In fact, that's called black hat SEO. Google do not like it. Now, if you've been established for a long time and you start doing that, Google might warn you via the Google Search Console that you've got problems. But if you're a new site and you straight away start up doing black hat SEO, paying for links and that type of thing, in the short term, you might get higher. In the long term, Google will work out what you're doing. And believe me, they will de-index your site. And that would be disaster. When Google changed some of the algorithms, a lot of businesses went bust, basically, because their website didn't show up on Google because they used spammy methods. One of the spammy methods is to flood the meta description with keywords. If you do that, you're onto a loser. In the old days, it worked. As I said, as they get more sophisticated, Google, you've just got to write naturally for your readers, not for the search engine. Now, there'll be many search engine SEO experts out there who say, no, just put keywords in, you'll be absolutely fine. In the short term, it might work. But when Google start recrawling your site, they get to understand what's going on. They will know what you're doing, and it will basically ruin you in the long term. So just having a certain amount of structure about your images, loading fast, having as much text surrounding them as possible, and then writing good copy, and not just having a page that says photo gallery and all the images named image1.jpg, image2.jpg, no captions, no alt tag. They're not going to know what that page is about. So this is just common sense as far as I'm concerned. Tags. Well, if you're doing posts, which I do because I blog, be careful with your tags. If the tag only appears once on the whole site, that can cause duplicate content. Google don't like duplicate content because there'll be a tag page with that post on it, and there'll be the proper page itself. And it'll say, which one should I pick? It'll pick its own one. And then you might have a problem because only the tag one is being picked, not the actual proper version. So that's not really applicable to people that don't use posts, because most photographers would just have pages, but just be aware of it. Categories are about posts as well, so don't have thousands of categories and thousands of tags. Basically, think carefully about your tags and your categories. What else can I talk about? Well, sliders. I've got a slider at the front of my site. They're very compelling, but they will slow down the load time. A lot of JavaScript involved with them, etc., etc. I would say go away from having full screen ones. I used to have them, but they really do slow the site down, and the text is miles down. It's hard to find. You do need text on your page, so I've gone for an auto one here, which basically fits in the HTML container. So that's what I'm gone for now, so I can have some text on the page. Maybe I should put that at the top and have the slider down below. I think I'll probably do that because Google read a page from top to bottom. So having the information at the top and links that I need. Don't forget, links are important. Going in and going out helps Google understand your site. Check the speed of your site. There's many tools out there. There's the Lighthouse Chrome extension, but the best one, I think, is GT Metrics here. So one of my pages is not doing very well. It's because of the passing of JavaScript. So it was 78. So when I click on it now, I had a page speed score of 78. So this is really good because it gives you a lot of information. If you're used to developer mode, you can get this information yourself, and developer mode exists in every browser. But basically, this does it for you. It gives you recommendations, etc., etc. So it's a far better way of judging the speed of your site. Still at 78, but it's warning me, defer passing of JavaScript. JavaScript is stopping my page from loading. So I need to play around my JavaScript. I also use caching plugins as well. Let me show you one here. WP Rocket. I also use one that comes with my hosting provider called SG Cache. If you don't understand caching, just get WP Rocket and don't touch it. It'll do a pretty good job, but start to read about it, start to understand it, because you want your site to load fast. So it is very, very good. I use WP Rocket and SG, which is SiteGround Cache as well. Don't get too involved with caching. When you've got all the other problems out the way, then start to look into caching because it will help your site load faster. So testing your site is absolutely important. This is a really big one, actually, and I hope you've hung on to the end. Google Search Console. It's the best tool out because it's Googlebot telling you about your site. So when you first come in, it will say what your performance is, your coverage is, is it working on mobile? So at first, you probably won't play around with this much, but I recommend you do, especially performance. So it's saying for a web search, as opposed to image or video, in the last 3 months, I've had, in search engine result pages, I've been clicked on 1,000 times approximately. People have seen my result, in the search engine result pages, 32,000 times. That's an average click-through rate, 3.4%. Not fantastic. And on the search engine result pages, I'm in number 40. This is not for a specific search. It's just meaning when I've showed up for any type of search, roughly my average position is 40. Not brilliant. But you can then use this to, let's say queries containing. So if I put in here landscape photographer, white, like the keywords you would type normally, go apply, I'm not showing up at all. So these things you need to be aware of. That means I need to do something to the page that I want to show up. Make sure that it's got those keywords in it naturally. It's really important. Also, there's Bing Webmaster Tools as well, but Google Search Console is the best one. But obviously Bing is used a lot by people in offices with Windows systems. So you should be on Bing as well. And I'll show you Bing now as well quickly. It's a far more complicated workspace, really, but don't let that fool you. The tools are all there and there's a lot going on you can do in terms of reports. I show up better on Bing than I do on Google in the search engine result pages because I use Bing Webmaster Tools and I make sure that Yoast gives the sitemap to Bing, etc., etc. So I show up quite well. So people in offices, professionals, I'm showing up quite high. When most people use Google, but some people can't in offices, or they're defaulted to Bing. So Bing is important as well. Just going back to the Search Console, getting those reports out, checking you've got problems, let's say, with mobile usability, which I did. It tells me the text was too small to read. I fixed it. I asked for a recall. You can do that, a recrawl, I should say, and I passed. So just an overview again. Optimize your files. Make the file names of the file describe what's in the file itself, the image itself. Alt text, caption, titles. The IPTC title is very important as well because it can be read by, let's say, a gallery plugin. Then it's all about your copy, but use an SEO plugin called Yoast. And once you get used to it, start changing the meta descriptions and the key phrases, etc., to make sure that you're going to show up where you want to show up. Do not flood your text anywhere in the meta description or in the copy with keywords. Write naturally. Google will understand that you understand your subject. So all these things, and then it's testing, and then using Google Search Console or Bing Webmaster Tools. And then you're really on your way to showing up in the search engine result pages, but you do need links. And how you get links is another subject altogether. There's a lot of black hat SEO methods out there for going to buy links off sites that do that type of thing. So be careful of that. That won't work long term. So when SEO experts say, oh, I can make you show up, number one in Google, be careful of their methods and they'll take a lot of money off you as well. Anything to do with SEO seems to be very expensive. And really, they're guys that just got a marketing background, don't understand the technicalities of SEO. That's why there's technical SEO people, which are really web developers who understand JavaScript and understand that, sometimes a page is stopping the information appearing to the search bot, and they sort of correct those things. So they're developers, really, technical SEOs. SEO is very fundamental things you need to do. And I hope you've understood that from this video. Thanks very much, guys.